Hello, my Scorpio love. You've been sensing something, haven't you? That quiet, persistent tug in your gut, the one you've tried to silence with logic, reason, and loyalty. You've told yourself to stop overthinking. You've blamed stress, timing, even your own insecurities. But the truth is, your intuition hasn't been lying to you. It never does. You didn't find this message by accident. You were guided here because your inner knowing has been knocking on the door for far too long. And the universe is finally answering through the only language you trust: truth. There is a man in your life who holds you close, who says all the right things, who looks at you like you're the only one. And yet, something about his energy doesn't sit right with you. You feel the split, don't you? You feel the moments he disappears, not physically, but emotionally. You notice the way he hesitates when you talk about the future, or how certain topics make his eyes dart elsewhere. And even though nothing obvious has happened, the energy has changed. The warmth you built with so much care now carries a strange draft, a chill that wasn't there before. And that, Scorpio, is your gift speaking. Your gift of emotional perception, of seeing through masks even when you wish they were real. You've sensed that his heart isn't as devoted as his words say. That while he may love you deeply, and yes, he does, there is still something, or someone, lingering in the background. A door he hasn't fully closed. A connection he hasn't severed. And it's not about you being paranoid, too much, or too sensitive. It's about the way your spirit detects betrayal even before it fully reveals itself. Because you're not just a lover, Scorpio. You are an emotional detective, built for truth, allergic to half-love. And even if you've tried to talk yourself out of these feelings, they keep circling back because they're rooted in something real. This isn't about drama or punishment. This is about clarity. About you finally admitting to yourself that something has been off. That his presence in your life, while comforting, may also be dividing your power. And maybe, just maybe, you're not meant to fight so hard for someone who can't even close the door behind him. So take a breath and stay with me. We're not rushing to conclusions. We're simply honoring what your soul already knows. And that, Scorpio, is the first step toward your liberation. He didn't lie when he said he loved you. That part is real. You felt it in the way he looks at you during quiet mornings, in the way he reaches for your hand when you're not even speaking. There is sincerity in him. And that's what makes all of this harder to admit. Because you're not dealing with a villain, you're dealing with a man who feels deeply but acts in confusion. A man who loves you, yet still keeps another woman within his emotional reach. She may not sit at the center of his life, but she's still in the room, in the orbit, in the back of his mind where comfort and unfinished stories live. And whether he realizes it or not, he's been splitting himself in two, trying to hold on to you while not fully letting go of something else. Something he should have closed before you ever entered the picture. You've felt this in the pauses between words, in the energy that shifts when her name is mentioned, or when her name isn't, and he go quiet instead. You've picked up on the indecision he tries to hide, on the way he keeps certain memories protected, as if they still belong to someone else. It's not that he doesn't love you, Scorpio. It's that he hasn't yet chosen you with both hands. He's holding you in one and clinging to something else with the other. And you, my love, were not born to be anyone's partial choice. The tragedy here isn't that you're not enough, it's that he's too lost to realize you already are. He confuses nostalgia with loyalty, comfort with connection. He hasn't dared to question why he keeps the past alive, why he lets its ghost sit beside the present. And in doing so, he dishonors the very thing you were offering, a love with depth, clarity, and fierce devotion. You were never asking him to be perfect. You were only asking him to be sure. But his uncertainty has become your ache. And his avoidance has become your question mark. And the worst part is that you keep making excuses for him. Thinking if you're patient enough, loving enough, maybe he'll figure it out. But Scorpio, that is not your burden to carry. You were never meant to wait in emotional limbo, wondering if someone else is still haunting the room where you were supposed to feel safe. And the truth is, you've known this all along. Not through proof, but through energy, through the feeling that even when he's with you, part of him isn't. You can feel her presence, not physically, but emotionally, like a door slightly ajar that he keeps pretending is closed. And that's not love. That's a split current. And it's been draining your power every day. You keep pretending not to notice. So now, let's name what's been hidden. Not to shame him, but to free you. Because the moment you stop explaining away the silence, you start reclaiming your voice. And that's where your real power begins. The hardest truth to swallow isn't that he chose someone else. It's that he never truly chose at all, not you. Not her. Not even himself. He's been standing in the middle of two worlds. Paralyzed by the weight of decisions he never learned how to make. And Scorpio, I know how deeply you analyze your own role in this. I know how often you've turned the blame inward, asking if you were too much, too intense, too demanding, too everything. But you weren't. You were just whole. And he wasn't ready for that. This was never about your worth. It was always about his fear. Fear of closing chapters. Fear of making permanent choices. Fear of stepping fully into a love that demanded emotional maturity. He kept one foot in comfort and the other in connection. And in doing so, he created a silent war inside the very space that was supposed to hold your peace. You've been absorbing the consequences of his unresolved emotions. Taking on responsibility for the heaviness he refused to face. That ache in your chest that wasn't yours. It was the residue of his indecision clinging to your soul. He didn't choose because he didn't want to be the one who burned bridges. He wanted to stay soft in every story. To remain the good guy. Even if it meant keeping you in a place of constant doubt. That is not love. That is control disguised as kindness. It's what happens when someone wants the benefits of your heart without the weight of accountability. And for someone like you, so emotionally precise, so spiritually alert, it's a slow erosion. Not a loud betrayal, but a quiet undoing of the trust you worked so hard to build. You see, Scorpio, you offered him depth. And depth terrifies the unready. He wasn't built for the ocean you live in. He tried to wade into your waters with shallow feet and found himself overwhelmed. So, instead of learning to swim, he retreated to the shallows. He understood. That's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of his emotional threshold. And it's time you stop translating his avoidance as your inadequacy. Because you are not something to be figured out later. You are not the backup plan for someone afraid of their own evolution. You are the initiation, and he wasn't ready for the fire that came with standing beside you, in truth. So let's be clear. His inability to choose wasn't a verdict on your lovability. It was a mirror of his own fragmentation. And now that you've seen that, really seen it, you're no longer available for halfway love. Not because you're bitter, but because your soul has finally remembered what it always deserved. You gave him every chance to rise. You held the space. Scorpio, the kind of sacred emotional space most people don't even know how to name. You stayed when it would have been easier to walk. You listened when you were the one who deserved to be heard. You waited through silence, through emotional distance, through the quiet ache of not knowing if you were ever going to be enough for a man who couldn't even look himself in the mirror long enough to name what he truly wanted. And you did it not out of weakness. but out of loyalty, the kind that runs in your blood, the kind that makes you fight for what you love, even when it breaks you open. But let's be honest now. How long have you been betraying yourself in the name of patience? How many times have you shrunk your voice, dimmed your light, made excuses for his absences, emotional or otherwise, just to keep the illusion of love intact? You convinced yourself that if you just held on long enough, sacrificed just a little more, he'd see it. He'd wake up. He'd choose you completely. But Scorpio, that narrative has cost you something sacred, your own sense of worth. And that is a price far too high to keep paying. You were never meant to negotiate for love. You were never meant to prove your value to someone who couldn't recognize it the first time. Your depth is not a test. Your loyalty is not a challenge. You are not a prize to be earned after someone finishes grieving their past. And yet, you've allowed your standards to bend under the weight of his indecision, hoping that love would eventually justify the weight. But love, real love, doesn't ask you to abandon yourself in the process. It doesn't ask you to carry both your heart and his wounds while walking alone through a relationship that's supposed to be shared. It's not that you gave too much. It's that you gave to someone who didn't know how to receive without taking. And now your soul is tired, not because you're broken, but because you've been pouring into a vessel with no bottom. You deserve more than that. You deserve a love that holds you with the same reverence you offer so effortlessly. And if this experience has taught you anything, let it be this: self-respect is not something you place on the altar of love. It is the foundation upon which real love is built. And anything that asks you to sacrifice that is not a home, it is a warning. What you're feeling right now, the heartbreak, the heaviness, the hollow quiet that follows truth, is not the end. Scorpio, it is the sacred unraveling that always comes before rebirth. This pain you carry isn't punishment. It's purification. The fire that has scorched your heart is not here to destroy you. It's here to burn away everything that kept you small, loyal to something unworthy of your soul's magnitude. You've mistaken survival for love. You've called endurance devotion, but now the truth has shown itself clearly. And the ache in your chest is simply your spirit shedding what no longer fits, what no longer feeds your growth. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. This is your initiation. And like all sacred transitions, it hurts. It's meant to, because you love deeply. You meant it. And in that, you touched something eternal, even if the person beside you couldn't hold it. But Scorpio, the moment you stop trying to hold together what was never whole, you allow the divine to step in. You allow healing to move freely through you. No longer blocked by compromise or illusion. You stop bargaining with fate and start aligning with it. And that's when everything begins to change, not because you chased it, but because you finally let go of what was blocking your path. There is something on the other side of this. Not just peace. Not just relief, but someone. Someone who speaks your emotional language without needing translation. Someone who doesn't fear your depth. Who doesn't flinch at your honesty. Who meets your loyalty with equal force. The universe is not cruel. It has witnessed every tear imps. Every silent moment you sat in your own strength while someone else faltered. And now it is orchestrating something new. Something worthy. Not a replacement. A reward. This new chapter is not about starting over. It's about starting from wholeness. You've already done the inner work. You've already bled for the truth. Now, you're walking into a space where you no longer have to convince someone of your value. You're walking into a connection that recognizes it from the start. And it won't be perfect, but it will be honest. It will feel steady where everything else felt unsure. You'll feel seen. Not just looked at. You'll feel chosen. Not just tolerated. So, let this be your turning point. Let this be the moment where you finally believe that you don't have to earn what's meant for you. Let yourself rest in the knowing that something real is coming not because you chased it, but because you made room for it by releasing what could never stay. The future is not a distant concept anymore. It's moving toward you. Reshaped by every moment, you've honored your truth. And Scorpio, that future is already on its way. And if at some point down the road he returns, as they so often do when they feel the absence of what once held them steady, you won't be waiting where he left you. You won't be standing in the same version of yourself that once tolerated silence, explained away inconsistencies, or accepted half-love as better than none. Because by the time he finds the courage to face what he ran from, you will have already rebuilt your world from the ashes he left behind, not out of revenge, not out of bitterness, but out of reverence for your own becoming. You will have grown into someone who no longer seeks closure from the person who broke the contract. You will have become your own closure, your own compass, your own safe place. And he will feel that shift. He will sense it in your stillness, in the calmness of your gaze that no longer trembles in his presence. He will notice that you're not trying to be chosen anymore because you've already chosen yourself. And in that choice, you've drawn a line that no one can cross unless they arrive with the kind of clarity and integrity that matches your own. You are no longer available for confusion disguised as affection. You are no longer softened by old memories or swayed by empty apologies. His return, should it happen, will not awaken longing. It will awaken memory. And memory, while powerful, is no longer the map you live by. You don't hate him. You don't need to. You simply see him clearly now. And in seeing him clearly, you also see yourself. Not as someone who was hard to love, but as someone who loved too hard for someone not ready. That kind of love deserves respect. And now, you understand that respect starts from within. So when he stands before you again, trying to pick up where he left off, what he will find is not the woman who once begged for answers, but the one who now moves in peace without them. And perhaps he'll feel regret. Maybe he'll speak of what he's realized, what he's healed, what he wants to rebuild. But even if his words are true, you will know that truth alone is not enough. It must be lived, proven, carried through time. And unless he has done the real, uncomfortable work of becoming the man who can stand beside the woman you've become, there will be no space left for him in the life you've created. You'll wish him well, perhaps even thank him for showing you what love is not, for being the lesson that made you finally choose your worth. Because, Scorpio, your strength is no longer something you fight to prove. It is something you embody. And no one, not even someone you once loved, has the power to shake what you've reclaimed. He may return, but you won't. Not to that old version of you, not to that old life. And that, my love, is how you win with silence, with clarity, and with the peace that comes from knowing you will never again settle for less than everything. You were never alone in this journey. Scorpio, not in the heartbreak, not in the silence, and certainly not now as you rise. Even in the moments when you felt forgotten, when your strength wavered and your tears fell in the dark, the universe was listening. The ancestors who walked before you were whispering wisdom into your bones. Your spirit guides, your angels, they have been holding space for this very moment of awakening. This chapter was never about punishment. It was a passage, a breaking open, so your light could finally break through. And now, you are stepping into a season where you no longer chase peace. You become it. Where love doesn't arrive through confusion or compromise, but through honesty, clarity, and soul-level resonance. You are entering a time when your life reflects your healing, when your outer world matches the quiet power you've been cultivating inside. This isn't just recovery, this is reclamation of your worth, of your energy, of your right to be loved in a way that doesn't require you to explain your feelings or abandon yourself to be chosen. So walk forward, not with fear, but with reverence. The pain shaped you, yes, but it did not define you. And from this moment on, may your life be filled with love that stays, peace that doesn't falter, and a freedom that no one can take away. You are not waiting anymore. You are arriving,